Finance and Investment Network's platform. Today, in our Women in Finance and Investment Spotlight series, we are in conversation with Marike Fourie. Marike, she is an ESG professional and is currently the Environment Risk Analyst at Inspired Evolution Management Limited. She has a demonstrated history of working in the financial, mining, renewable energy, resource efficiency, and advisory service sectors. And today, she is with us to share her insights on managing ESG risk and crisis management, as well as to share her journey as a woman leader in the ESG space. Marike, welcome to our platform, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning, Dixita, and thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege.
Okay, so speaking of ESG risk and crisis management, we have seen that until recently, a company's ESG approach was not really considered as a major concern for investors. However, today this perception has changed, and many stakeholders realize that these issues are critical to a company's financial performance. And we have noticed that this increased focus on ESG is not because of some specific laws or regulations, but it's rather because of the reputational and financial impact of mishandling ESG issues. So we have seen that a lot of pressure is also coming from the investor side and the public to address the impact of ESG issues on businesses, or raising questions on what is being done to mitigate these potential problems. So allow me to ask you, Marike, why do you think that this topic on ESG risk management is actually very important and needs to be properly understood and addressed?
So basically, ESG, environmental social governance, affects every single part of our lives. And I believe, and from a corporate perspective, it's something that all businesses in all geographical areas during all phases of development need to integrate into their business decision making. That will allow us to, look at the impacts that all businesses have on the environment, the society, and the way that they govern their businesses. And also on a more humanistic level, I believe it's something that we should all integrate into our daily lives, because essentially we want to achieve the sustainable development goals. We want to make the world a better place through the decisions that we make in our businesses and in our lives. And hopefully with a more focus on ESG, that will, allow us all to work together to solve the sustainable development goals.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you may tell us, what does this ESG crisis look like as opposed to the other crisis a company is facing? And where exactly is this ESG crisis coming from?
That's an interesting question, and a very good one at that. And it's got multiple layers. So I'm going to approach it in a multidisciplinary approach. I believe an ESG crisis is different from other crises in the sense that if you don't have a system that adequately looks at the environmental, social, and governance aspects in your business, it's going to reflect in the area where you operate. So that's when you'll see on site adverse impacts like uncontained pollution. You'll see human rights abuse. You'll see things like corruption and other impacts on the society or the community. So it's actually something that's integrated into the business and the way it's operated. So an ESG crisis is then reflected as an output and as an impact on the environment and society. Whereas I think if you have a proper risk assessment, those risks can be identified up front. You can avoid it, mitigate it, monitor it, manage it, and then the outputs in the end, it's something that you can learn from, even if there is an impact. How do you mitigate it? And it becomes an opportunity to improve. So depending on how your ESG risk management processes in a company allows you to either it's going to create a crisis or it's going to create an opportunity, depending on the efficacy of your business process. So I think, that's a very interesting and a good question, because some businesses will have to backtrack and look internally to see how they can minimize their their impacts to avoid these ESG crises. But also globally, I think it's something that's definitely getting a lot more attention. So we'll see companies using it as an opportunity to improve, because we can always learn from our mistakes. We all have the same challenges in the end.
True. So as we speak of ESG risk and crisis management, do we have any such processes for the identification of ESG opportunities and its impending risks?
Yes, so again, it starts in the company itself to identify and to have someone who is competent and has the capacity to identify these ESG risks to avoid an ESG crisis. And then it's always helpful to draw on, global best practice and good international industry practices, where we look to, as an environmental and social analyst in Inspired Evolution, we follow the IFC performance standards, and we follow some of our investor guidelines, who's the AFDB, African Development Bank, the safeguard systems, and also the EIB, European Investment Bank, who has environmental standards. And through their guidelines, we have a process how we can identify, we screen our projects and our portfolio companies, and we ensure that there's an exclusion list where we don't invest into certain sectors and industries, and we make sure they've got the right policies and procedures in place. So there's a lot of guidelines available globally, depending on what sector you're in. And from an investor's perspective, obviously, we've got specific investment mandate in clean energy as well. So there's quite a bit of guidelines and networks that's available globally as well. And I will encourage, all industries to have a look at what's applicable to them.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. My next question to you, Marike, you are an ESG risk analyst. How do you assess ESG research and stay on top of recent developments?
So it's absolutely my passion. So I follow it day and night. So I do use, podcasts and media and news. I stay on top of things. And because it's also, such a fascinating field to be in right now, it's environmental, social, it's governance. So you look through the lens of ESG, and then you look in the world in a different way. So in my corporate capacity, we have an environmental social management system, which I use as my handbook and my guideline. And in that, it allows me to look at our investments and our portfolio companies to make sure, again, that they've got the right policies and procedures in place. And then I also work closely with our deal team members and our financial analysts to make sure ESG is a standing item on all, meetings and decision making. And that includes our investment committees and all board meetings on our portfolio companies. So it's always a standard item, and it's addressed with the same, senior commitment and sense of authority that it deserves.
Okay. For many of our viewers who want to become an ESG professional and would want to know from you, what was your motivation to pursue your career in the ESG space?
I would say good choice, first of all. So considering ESG is just a wonderful field to be in right now. It's growing, it's developing, but also it's never a dull moment. So it's not without its challenges. For me personally, it was a natural progression from what I studied. And it was fired and fueled by my endless curiosity and my determination to find out more. So I studied a degree that has, business management aspects as well as environmental sciences and human sciences. And after I did my master's degree in sustainable development, I joined the company Digby Wells Environmental, where I was an environmental consultant. And I also got to learn from the different departments and the different minerals. So it was basically focused on mining and minerals, high impact. And to travel around Africa and to see, learn about like the diamonds in Sierra Leone and coal in Botswana and uranium in Namibia and Mali and gold. I actually worked on site as well for a long time, where you learn so much. You apply your theory, you can learn from the communities in which you operate, you learn from the businesses where you operate. And then from that, I progressed into the corporate world, Barclays Africa, which is known as ABSA Bank in South Africa at the moment. And in comes the scientist into the banking world. So also that's where I started learning about the IFC performance standards more and the equated principles. I was the environmental management manager in the credit risk department, and that's specialized finance. After that, I moved to Cape Town and I joined our Inspired Evolution team, and it's a private equity firm. We're focused on clean energy infrastructure across sub-Saharan Africa, which is also a fantastic opportunity to just see how these things are developing rapidly. So it's also, you know, being a woman in this space of mining and renewables and finance, it's got its challenges, but it's never been an obstacle for me. And I mean, you have to respect your support teams and also the men and women along the way that help you to get where you want to be. So it's definitely challenging, but it's been so rewarding, and hopefully it's inspiring to others as well to follow this field of opportunities. It's definitely recommendable.
Right, like you rightly said, a woman in this industry. So allow me to ask you, as a woman, okay, we tend to play various roles in this life. So speaking of you as an individual, how do you balance your personal and your professional lives?
That's, again, another interesting one, but by choice, I interwove my professional and personal life, because I, in my spare time even, I don't mind reading up and doing research about my projects. I share it with my family with so much enthusiasm. So I do like to, you know, when I travel as well, I like to stay connected with my team. I work from home at the moment, but every Monday we have team meetings. I go into the office. It's also very important to network with your, you know, office members, team members, stay connected. And when I disconnect, obviously when I'm in nature on my mountain bike or when I hike, then, you know, it's no work, all play. But it's nice to have an interwoven personal and professional lifestyle. And I think it's also the way of the future, where women can actually now say, you know, you've got responsibilities, be flexible and allow your work to be part of your personal life. And then, you know, it becomes something that you're really passionate about, and you don't mind when it interferes into your personal time. But when you need to disconnect, you know, we need to disconnect.
I agree. I agree. Okay, I have a last question for you. I would like to ask you, what will be the one piece of advice that you would like to give to the women aspiring to become the leaders of tomorrow?
I would say be curious, never stop learning, be a good servant and a student of life. It sounds a bit philosophical, but it's so important to learn from those who are ahead of us. And I would say take risks, don't be afraid to be bold, and you know, be determined and fierce in what you believe in. And, you know, just take the next opportunity, especially if there's any opportunities coming your way, take it with both hands and make the most of it. And I do believe that we all have a purpose. You know, we have unique experiences, abilities, and professional, you know, paths that we follow. So use that to your advantage and do it with integrity and with diligence. And I'm sure, you know, the right thing will come along. And if you just stand strong in a very challenging, changing world, I believe there's so much more opportunity ahead for all the young women and girls out there to follow investment, finance, and exciting careers into the future. So just do it, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marike. This has been a fruitful discussion, and it's been a pleasure to have you on our platform.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that you are a leading woman in the ESG space, creating an impact. And personally, I am very confident that your insights today on our platform, coming from a woman especially, is going to create impact even more on other women and will motivate the next generation of talent to aspire to such roles. So thank you once again for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for your kind words and the good work that you are doing as well. I think, as they say, teamwork makes the dream work. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our audience watching us, thank you so much for watching till the very end. And if you've enjoyed this interview or you have any question regarding the subject, please feel free to let us know by using the comment section at the bottom of the video. Until then, let's keep making it happen.